Hi there guys, so Oleksandr Usyk made a perfect start to his turn as a heavyweight. He is now 1-0 as a heavyweight with one stoppage victory over Chaz Weatherspoon, who he stopped in 7 rounds in Chicago. Now, what was noticeable about Usyk is he is looking thicker and slightly bigger since his move up to heavyweight. Now obviously, he wouldn't have gained all that much, but I believe between 5 and 10 pounds is what he gained, because obviously when he was a cruiserweight, he wasn't on the button of 200 pounds. He was making weight, so he was cutting down and obviously dehydrating to make the weight. So not necessarily has he gained all that much weight, but he has gained some lean muscle. And this is noticeable in Usyk. You can see between his before and after pics, he is looking thicker and bigger and a bit bulkier at heavyweight. Now obviously, his style doesn't really match up to knocking guys out and being heavy. He needs to be light on his feet, so he doesn't necessarily need to gain all that much weight. But there was a considerable difference if you look at the mass and size difference between Chaz Weatherspoon, a natural heavyweight, and Oleksandr Usyk, a guy coming up from cruiserweight. But as I said, Oleksandr Usyk is a cruiserweight and he's a fast cruiserweight. Now moving up to heavyweight, he's not going to carry the same amount of power in the heavyweight division. His punches and power punches will not bother the guys the way they did in the cruiserweight division. But he doesn't necessarily need that. What he needs to do is play to his strengths, which as I said is speed and movement. So gaining a lot of weight will slow him down. So that is not something that he needs to do. What he needs to do is make sure that he is big enough to deal with the physical size of these guys, and also make sure he is fast enough to play to his strengths, as I said. So Oleksandr Usyk has gained probably between 5 and 10 pounds of muscle. Not that much, you think, but I mean, if you've ever gained 5 pounds of muscle, then you will know that it does show on your body. It does make a considerable difference. Now, obviously, it's not going to make all that much difference when he gets into the clinch and being stronger, but he does need to pack on a little bit of weight in the heavyweight division, just to have a little bit more weight on his punches, but also to be able to take punches better. Because if he were to just remain at 15 stone, then he wouldn't be taking shots as well as if he was a little bit heavier, maybe just under 16 stone. So I think Usyk weighed in at 215 pounds. And he was giving away 30 to 40 pounds to Chaz Weatherspoon. You could see the physical difference in size between the pair, but Oleksandr Usyk was outboxing and outmaneuvering Chaz Weatherspoon, and that was something that Chaz Weatherspoon just could not deal with. So Chaz Weatherspoon wasn't stopped over one punch, it was over an accumulation, which has always been Oleksandr Usyk's strength. He's never been a one-punch knockout artist, and he never will be, especially in the heavyweight division. But that's not something he needs. He needs to be able to move, use his fast hands and use that jab. He is very accurate also, but he does get hit. So a little bit extra weight won't hurt him because, as I said, he needs to be able to take those shots, and a little bit extra weight will help him do that. So how will Oleksandr Usyk have gained between 5 and 10 pounds? Because it doesn't really seem that hard, but it is a little bit more difficult and it's not as straightforward as just gaining a few pounds, especially if it's lean muscle, which you can see it is. He hasn't really put on any fat at all. He's not looking fleshy, he is still looking in good shape. So he hasn't gained much fat, it's mostly been muscle. And as I said, that's not as easy as it seems. It's not really that straightforward, especially considering his fight game is movement and speed and having a good cardiovascular system. So gaining weight would not be all that easy to Oleksandr Usyk, considering he would be doing that much endurance training to keep up and maintain his energy throughout the fight. So gaining that muscle wouldn't have came easy. And obviously the way for him to do that is just heavier weights, lower rep range, and more explosive workouts. Obviously he is at heavyweight now, so his training will adjust to that weight division. In the cruiserweight division, it was all about speed and being fast on his feet, and make sure that he has faster hands and better movement than the other guy, because that is Oleksandr Usyk's game. Whereas in the heavyweight division, obviously that is going to be a factor as well, but in the heavyweight division, he needs to make sure that size does not play too much of a factor. It's always going to, because he is a natural cruiserweight. But he needs to make sure that size isn't the reason he is losing fights. So in the heavyweight division, his training will have been adjusted to make sure that he is a little bit heavier, but also still has that cardiovascular system, and he is light on his feet going through the full 12 rounds. And the way he knocks fighters out, the way he stops them, is through accumulation of punches. It's never just a one-punch knockout that stops his opponents. Now, Oleksandr Usyk is a similar weight to Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is not a heavyweight. So in terms of weight, he wouldn't be giving all that much away to Deontay Wilder, because let's remember that is a fight that Oleksandr Usyk seems to want. He seems to believe that he can easily outbox Deontay Wilder. As long as he can stay away from that right hand, then he can beat Deontay Wilder. In fact, he can make him look quite ordinary in there. I mean, most fighters can. Deontay Wilder doesn't possess all that much boxing ability, but he's a one-trick pony, and it's a hell of a trick, that one right hand that can take anyone out at any stage of the fight. So Oleksandr Usyk would need to put in an absolutely perfect performance against Deontay Wilder if that's a fight that he wants, which he has expressed an interest in. Obviously, he wants to fight everyone. He wants to fight Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz Jr., whoever wins really. He wants to fight Tyson Fury, and as I said, he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. So those are the fights he wants. He's ready to be slung in with the world champions and the heavy hitters in the division. Now, obviously, the worry is always going to be, can he take the power of a heavyweight? He's always had a good chin in the cruiserweight division, but this is a completely different kettle of fish. There's a big jump from a 200-pound fighter to a 240, 250-pound fighter, and the weight on the punches will tell. So only over time and him being in those fights will we see if Oleksandr Usyk is able to stand up to the power of the big heavyweights, because he's going to get hit. You can't go swimming and not get wet. You can't go into a fight and not get hit. It's just going to happen. So no more warm-ups for Oleksandr Usyk. It's a world title fight next. We don't know who it will be against, but we know it is going to happen because he is mandatory for the WBO world title. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about the chances of Oleksandr Usyk in the heavyweight division? Do you think he's heavy enough? Do you think he's fast enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, click the thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.